In the wilds of Alaska, among vast forests, frozen mountains, untamed rivers, and storm-battered coastlines, survival means finding food before your rivals, enduring the bitter cold, and staying constantly alert in a land where predators are never far away. A world of ice, danger, and only one choice: survive or fall. Thank you for watching this video. Wishing you good health and all the best. Don't forget to leave a comment below and share your thoughts on the video. We'd also love to know where you're watching from, so join the conversation and let us know. And now, let's begin the journey. A bone-deep cold settles over the land, sinking into every living creature that dares to remain. Rivers harden into solid sheets of ice. Edible resources grow painfully scarce. Daylight shrinks to a mere flicker, and the long Arctic nights stretch endlessly across a darkened sky. The gentle warmth of summer fades into nothing more than a fleeting memory. Wolf packs move silently and hungrily through the frozen wilderness. Otters retreat into their sheltered burrows, and great birds of prey glide silently above the shadowed terrain, scanning for any sign of movement below. The weaker species instinctively migrate southward in search of milder conditions, leaving only the toughest and most resilient creatures to endure what lies ahead. Frigid winter descends with unforgiving force, and through its icy grip, the animal kingdom reveals one of nature's most extraordinary and hard-won chapters of survival. This is Alaska, a realm of majestic wildlife, enduring temperatures that plunge far below zero. Alaska stretches across a vast expanse of more than 1,700,000 square kilometers, equivalent to roughly 656,373 square miles, positioned between the icy waters of the Arctic Ocean, the vast Pacific Ocean, and the rugged Canadian border. With a landmass more than 3 times larger than Spain, Alaska stands as a monumental territory shaped by endless boreal forests and sweeping frozen tundra, where towering mountain ranges appear to pierce the heavens themselves. Scattered throughout this dramatic landscape are approximately 100,000 glaciers, together forming nearly 4% of the state's entire surface area. On the rare occasions when seasonal temperatures climb above the freezing point, the resulting meltwater surges into an intricate hydrographic network made up of more than 94 expansive lakes and roughly 10,000 winding rivers. The climate of Alaska poses an undeniably extreme challenge to every form of life that inhabits it. Positioned deep within the Arctic Circle, its winters plunge to bitterly cold extremes, with temperatures falling as low as -50 degrees Celsius, equivalent to -58 degrees Fahrenheit. While summer arrives only briefly, and in some years barely arrives at all. For the vast majority of the year, Alaska exists as a silent white kingdom, wrapped in thick layers of snow, where relentless cold and limited resources define daily existence. And yet, remarkably, within this seemingly inhospitable ecosystem, where survival itself often feels like an impossibility, more than 100 species of mammals and over 500 species of birds manage to thrive. from towering land giants such as the grizzly bear and the caribou, to delicate, diminutive creatures like the pygmy shrew. The biodiversity found throughout Alaska stands as something truly unparalleled on our planet. Bordered by vast, frigid oceans, Alaska's marine wildlife proves just as awe-inspiring as the creatures roaming its snow-covered forests. With its jagged coastline patrolled by powerful whales, agile sea lions, and migrating sea turtles navigating the cold currents. While it might sound poetic to imagine that every species within this icy realm coexists in perfect, peaceful harmony, the reality is far more brutal, as the fight for survival in Alaska intensifies to its most extreme form. Within such a punishing environment, daily confrontations become an unavoidable part of life, as formidable predators battle fiercely over prey, while herbivores are forced to dig beneath frozen rocks and packed snow in a desperate search for any trace of nourishment. Still, not every wild species faces such relentless hardship throughout the long Alaskan winter, as certain animals have evolved remarkably clever adaptations that allow them to endure the season, and in some cases, even flourish in relative comfort. So as we step deeper into this frozen wilderness together, ask yourself this: which of Alaska's remarkable survivors do you think has what it takes to outlast the harshest winter of all? For beavers, the master key to thriving in one of the coldest places on the planet, and never once lacking food throughout the harshest months, lies entirely in meticulous, forward-thinking preparation. While hungry predators are forced to endure the brutal winter out in the open, desperately chasing after elusive prey through deep snow, the well-organized beavers spend the freezing days huddled safely inside their warm, pleasant den, surrounded by a generous reserve of food they gathered long before the first frost arrived. Yet, all of that winter comfort is the direct product of relentless hard work carried out during the fleeting days of autumn. Much like an industrious lumberjack racing against the changing seasons, the beaver spends the days leading up to winter, felling trees and shrubs from the seemingly endless boreal forests that surround its home. With the help of 4 remarkably long, chisel-shaped incisors that function almost like a natural saw, beavers manage to cut through trees measuring up to 15 centimeters, roughly 5.9 inches, in diameter with astonishing ease, as though slicing through soft butter. Each felled trunk is then carefully hauled to its chosen construction site within a small, tranquil pond. In the days before the arrival of the merciless winter, the beaver focuses on a single, all-consuming task: to construct its lodge, an ingenious underwater refuge designed to store all the bark and wood it will rely on throughout the coming months of scarcity. Although evolutionary history did not gift the beaver with fearsome ferocity or an imposing, colossal size, It did equip the species with remarkably useful biological tools suited for surviving Alaska's fierce winter conditions. The beaver's thick, dense fur functions much like a personal coat, helping it retain vital core body heat even during the coldest stretches of winter. While its broad, flat tail serves as a natural fat reserve, perfectly suited for storing the energy needed to endure long periods without fresh food. But simply having a secured food supply is not enough to withstand the punishing conditions of the freezing season. For a species that is entirely non-aggressive by nature and shares its snowy neighborhood with a wide range of active predators, a truly reliable shelter becomes absolutely indispensable. With this in mind, beavers transform from simple loggers into remarkably skilled engineers, constructing dens of surprising architectural complexity. Drawing on the vast, seemingly limitless Alaskan forests at their disposal, they spare no effort, building impressive structures that rise as high as 3 meters, equivalent to 9.8 feet, and stretch as wide as 6 meters, equivalent to 19.7 feet. Spacious enough to comfortably house up to 12 individuals in relative luxury. Naturally, constructing a fortress meant to withstand the punishing Alaskan winter would mean little without proper insulation, built directly into its design. Since beavers overlook nothing in their preparations, the den, always built near the edges of lakes and rivers, retains a high level of moisture along its walls. And as winter sets in, that moisture gradually freezes solid, forming a natural insulating capsule that shields the interior from the brutal cold outside. The many predators roaming the Alaskan wilderness that might dream of hunting down a plump beaver, including the gray wolf and the powerful brown bear, pose surprisingly little threat, since the beavers lodge during the deepest cold snaps when temperatures plunge to minus 50 degrees Celsius, equivalent to minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit, effectively becomes an impenetrable fortress. To keep unwelcome visitors from ever getting close, beavers position the entrance to their den entirely underwater. And as winter forms a thick, unyielding layer of ice across the surface of the ponds, the beavers remain remarkably well protected from any outside threat. Of course, they never neglect the convenience of their underwater pantry, always building an additional exit that grants them quick, easy access to their carefully stored reserve of sweet willows, poplars, and birches, all without ever having to leave the safety of the water. On the other hand, no matter how carefully planned their preparations may be, when winter drags on far longer than expected in certain years, the prolonged cold season can cause their pantry to run dangerously low, forcing beavers into desperate survival measures, including consuming their own feces in order to extract every last remaining nutrient from what little food remains in their system. While beavers know how to live almost like royalty within their own underground shelter, they also demonstrate a remarkable willingness to adapt and do whatever is necessary to survive when conditions turn dire. Although one might assume that being such a skilled logger would make the beaver a destructive force within its own forest habitat, the reality could not be further from the truth, as beavers stand as a perfect example of what ecologists often describe as natural ecosystem engineers. The dams that beavers construct help significantly improve water quality by filtering out sediment, while also functioning as natural reservoirs that give rise to thriving wetlands, ultimately encouraging the proliferation of countless other species throughout the surrounding ecosystem. By successfully enduring yet another brutal winter, sheltered within the depths of their cozy, well-insulated den, beavers prove conclusively that possessing sharp claws or a predatory instinct is never a mandatory requirement for surviving the unforgiving wilderness of Alaska. With such remarkable engineering skill and quiet resilience on display, one has to wonder, could this humble, hard-working creature actually be one of the smartest survivors in the entire Alaskan wild? There is simply no den large enough anywhere in the frozen wilderness to house the truly colossal size of the muskox, which means this massive creature has no choice but to spend the darkest winter days entirely out in the open, exposed to whatever the season decides to throw its way. Named for the intensely strong odor produced by its salivary glands during the annual mating season, the muskox stands as a genuinely fascinating creature, capable of weighing up to 400 kilograms, equivalent to roughly 881.8 pounds, and making its home throughout the extreme northern reaches of the Arctic Circle. Thanks to thousands upon thousands of years of gradual evolutionary refinement, the muskox has developed an incredibly thick coat, layered in deep shades of brown and gray, that works tirelessly to shield it from the ruthless climatic conditions found throughout its Alaskan home, while an equally efficient internal metabolism ensures that its core body temperature remains steady at 38 degrees Celsius, equivalent to 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of just how brutally cold the outside world becomes. The only feature that could possibly complement such an intimidating physical size is a truly imposing pair of horns, and natural selection certainly did not hold back, gifting the muskox two long, spiral-shaped horns that can grow to lengths of up to 1 meter, equivalent to 3.3 feet. Unlike the relatively mild summer days, when herds of oxen typically linger near wetlands and lush river valleys, winter compels the muskox to retreat instead to higher, even colder ground in order to avoid the deep, heavy snow accumulating below. Since for a beast weighing nearly half a metric ton, struggling free from a thick layer of snow can prove extraordinarily difficult and energy draining. And these elevated stretches is also spare it the exhausting task of digging deeply just to reach whatever meager forage lies beneath. As one might reasonably expect given its colossal frame, a single adult muskox is capable of consuming up to 5 kilograms, equivalent to 11 pounds, of forage in a single day, uncovering modest yet valuable snacks such as mosses, grasses, and lichens within the barren Alaskan soil, often relying on an exceptionally keen sense of smell to locate food buried deep beneath the snow. And much like the industrious beavers, it frequently regurgitates its food in order to digest it a second time and extract every possible ounce of nourishment. Although evolutionary adaptation has equipped the muskox with virtually everything it needs to manage independently throughout the harsh Alaskan winter, it nevertheless prefers the company of others, typically spending the coldest months living within herds, ranging from 12 to 20 individuals, where a clear and rigid hierarchical structure always emerges among its members. Within this tense social order, confrontation is never far away, and few sights capture the raw power of the species, quite like two rival males squaring off across the frozen tundra, lowering their massive, horned heads and charging straight at one another with tremendous force. The resounding crack of horn against horn, echoing sharply across the icy silence, as each animal tries to knock the other off balance and assert dominance over the herd. These violent clashes can repeat again and again, the two bulls backing away only to charge once more. Snow and frost kicked up around their hooves with every bone-jarring collision until one finally yields and retreats, leaving the victor to reclaim his position at the top of the hierarchy. Of course, it remains only a matter of time before a frustrated subordinate male eventually musters the courage to challenge the dominant male once again. And when such a challenge ultimately fails, males, unlike their female counterparts, always retain the alternative option of departing entirely and forging a solitary existence far removed from the herd. Although submitting to such a rigid social hierarchy remains one of the clear disadvantages of herd life, when it comes to defending against predators and finding warmth against the bitter cold, having reliable companions nearby always proves invaluable. And while the musk ox's sheer, massive size commands genuine respect across the vast, windswept tundra, when prey grows scarce enough, many desperate predators still dare to attempt the extraordinary feat of hunting down one of these powerful, formidable bovids. So with such fierce clashes and extraordinary resilience on full display against Alaska's harshest conditions, which part of the musk ox's remarkable survival strategy do you find the most impressive? Among the intrepid predators that see the musk ox as potential prey are the Arctic wolves. One of the worst sounds a lost prey wandering through the freezing Alaskan tundra can hear is the howl of an Arctic wolf. And as soon as the pack hears the call, they gather to stalk their prey. With up to 10 wolves surrounding the potential victim, they launch the coordinated attack, leaving no chance to escape. Of course, being a joint effort, the prey must be divided equally among everyone. And each Arctic wolf can eat up to 9 kilograms, which is about 19.8 pounds, of meat at one time. So the bigger the prey, the better. In these feasts, not even the bones are wasted. And when the pack finishes the banquet, there are no traces left of what happened. Of course, it is not every day that they are lucky enough to hunt a substantial muskox that feeds the whole family. And with the scarcity of prey that winter brings in Alaska, the wolves must tighten their belts and expand their menu with smaller prey. As a survival measure, Arctic wolves turn their interest to small animals like lemmings and Arctic hares. Although a successful hunt of these will not be enough for everyone, and in difficult times, sharing is sometimes optional. One of the best things that can happen to a pack of Arctic wolves is to cross paths with a group of caribou on their migration south. As these horned animals abandon the cold north, looking for better weather conditions on long walks across the tundra. Of course, they can't walk forever. And that is when the wolf packs lick their chops, dreaming of an exquisite caribou dish. But the task of hunting these deserting caribou is not very simple, as they can run up to 80 kilometers per hour, which is about 49.7 miles per hour, making them faster than the wolves. For this reason, the key to a successful hunt lies in stealth and catching an unsuspecting individual. And many times the wolves try again and again without success, which leads them to follow the caribou on their migration for up to thousands of kilometers, which is thousands of miles. Of course, after trying and trying, as a reward for perseverance, a caribou often ends up succumbing to the long journey and the constant stress of being prowled by the wolves, becoming a substantial meal of up to 180 kilograms, which is 396.8 pounds. Although the coordinated attack of a dozen wild canines of up to 80 kilograms, which is 176.4 pounds, sounds like something infallible. The truth is that Arctic wolves have an effectiveness of only 10% when hunting. And this low success rate makes winter days usually long and full of famine. After having had good luck in a hunt, the Arctic wolves focus on another of the great challenges of their not very welcoming neighborhood in Alaska. With the thermometer reaching minus 50 degrees Celsius, which is minus 58 degrees Fahrenheit, no coat is enough. And in this corner of the planet, the option of going to buy a fur coat is not available. So the wolves seek refuge in caves and rock formations. There they huddle to withstand the strongest blizzards, most likely dreaming of the warmer days of summer. When the Alaskan winter has its days numbered, there is probably no animal happier than the alpha wolf, as the mating season will officially begin. Unlike other species in Alaska, where the breeding season means the beginning of fights to mate, in the highly civilized pack of Arctic wolves, everyone knows their place, and only the alpha male and female have the right to reproduce, and more than a privilege for the alphas. This is a survival measure adopted by the pack. Living in a place as demanding as the Alaskan tundra, the idea of having dozens of pups to care for doesn't seem sensible at all. And instead, the 2 or 3 pups that the alpha female will bring into the world will help maintain the pack's numbers with new members of a strong lineage. Those who in a few years will be voracious predators capable of taking down a caribou with a single bite. At the time of birth, they are pups of only about 500 grams, which is 1.1 pounds. Born blind and deaf, and in this period, the pack will demonstrate once again its great family union. And each member will take on babysitting duties, taking care of the well-being of each little one. Among those very grateful diners for the leftovers left by the orcas is the majestic bald eagle. Despite not being primarily a scavenger, during the winter, the bald eagle will have no qualms about adapting to the extreme conditions of its habitat and eating whatever is necessary to live to see another spring. Only birds with the majesty of the bald eagle are capable of surviving the demanding living conditions of Alaska. With a wingspan of up to 2 meters, which is 6.6 feet, large claws, and a powerful beak, the bald eagle is not especially a domestic bird. Its peculiar white plumage contrasting with the brown on the rest of its body gives it that bald look for which it is known. When it is not soaring through the skies, performing incredible flight demonstrations, and instilling fear in its potential prey, the bald eagle perches almost motionless on the branches of large trees, observing everything in detail from a distance. Although the specimens that live further north are forced to migrate south during the winter, the bald eagles of the coast do not abandon their territories and, in a show of bravery, stay to wait out the frosts. Not having available the abundant rivers full of life where it previously hunted catfish and trout, the bald eagle resorts to going fishing in the sea. With vision up to 5 times superior to that of humans, the bald eagle flies great distances over the coast, looking for easy prey on the surface of the water. Upon identifying it, the eagle will dive after it and catch it with its large claws, barely skimming the water. And unlike other fishing birds, the bald eagle does not usually submerge, preferring to always keep its elegant plumage dry. However, when the eagle has not been successful catching fish from the surface, in a show of cunning, it usually stalks the osprey. And when the latter manages to catch something, showing who is boss among the eagles, it takes what is its own. After having had a successful catch or stealing a prey from the osprey, the bald eagle sees the perfect moment to go rest with a full stomach. The return to its resting place can be somewhat long, as these birds usually fly up to 20 kilometers, which is 12.4 miles, on their fishing trips. Although they generally live alone during the winter as a survival measure, the eagles that have stayed in Alaska decide to stay in communal roosting trees where they feel more protected from the cold and predators. When the scarce sun shines again over the bald eagle's habitat, it is time to get up and make reconnaissance flights, as you never know when the busy nightlife of Alaska might give you some valuable leftovers from a caribou. Despite its imposing beak and fearsome size, if you are not an orca weighing more than 5 metric tons and you live in Alaska, you must watch your back. And in the middle of the ruthless winter, some animals would not frown upon the 5 kilograms, which is 11 pounds, of meat that a bald eagle can provide. So it is always best to stay in the relative safety of the heights. While it is true that the bald eagle has no natural predators, sometimes the precarious conditions of winter lead animals like lynxes to try to capture it, especially injured individuals. Day after day, the routine is the same for the bald eagle in the Alaskan winter. Perching on high tree branches, soaring the beaches in search of food, and seeking shelter from the cold during the nights. But everything is about to change as the calendar advances. The minus 50 degrees Celsius that battered the wildlife turned into a much more pleasant 10 degrees Celsius, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And the changes in the landscape are more than evident. The snow begins to melt, the rivers slowly unfreeze, and flowers come to life as spring has arrived. And with it, nature rewards the survivors with a different face of Alaska, where vegetation grows everywhere and every space seems more full of life. The bald eagle now flies with much more freedom towards new destinations where the new waters will bring abundant prey, as well as the return of its companions who migrated south. And the beginning of spring begins a new chapter in the diverse ecosystem of Alaska, where thousands of wild animals wake up from a deep sleep of months without seeing the sunlight and without even knowing what has happened during the days of the freezing winter. One of those species that has just woken up from a restful sleep is the brown bear. Shortly after leaving its den, the shelter it built for the winter, the bear marvels at the abundance it finds in this new Alaska. Managing to see the sunny spring days means that all the preparations it made for the winter paid off. Before the rivers froze with the low temperatures, the bear had a real feast, consuming up to 40 kilograms, which is 88.2 pounds, of fish a day. Of course, more than gluttony, all this was part of a delicious strategy to gain weight for hibernation. And in addition to gaining weight, the brown bear's preparations also included building a comfortable mattress with grasses and small branches. Because if you are going to spend months sleeping, it better be comfortably. After so much time without even tasting an exquisite salmon. For these first days of spring, the brown bear even weighs only half of what its size was before the snow falls. All that fat has been consumed, and it is time to break the long fast with a good meal to celebrate the end of winter. Being the best example of an omnivore, the brown bear is capable of adjusting its diet to practically anything its habitat offers. And for these days, when the forest and rivers are still recovering from the snowfalls, the menu is simple, but at the same time, nutritious. The bear will look for tender shoots, large leaves, and rich herbs to whet its appetite a bit after months of starvation. With the rise of the temperature on the thermometer, the melting of the thick layer of snow often brings good gifts to the brown bear, like carcasses of musk oxen that were buried as the low temperatures preserve the meat with freshness. So the brown bear will taste a reheated meal that tastes freshly made. After spending so much time without eating, no one can blame the brown bear for dedicating a large part of its time to filling its stomach with everything it can. Of course, tasting exquisite leaves is not the only thing the brown bear has planned for this season, as with all those flowers filling the Alaskan ecosystem with life. For the brown bear, love is in the air. After months locked alone in its den, most likely the brown bear dreamed of the company of a female bear. And after the forest thaws, the brown bear's wishes come true as the spring mating season begins. Here, males full of hormones and eager to reproduce travel long distances to find females in heat who let themselves be carried away by their charms. And the male bear will reach the female by smelling her urine. Upon locating a fertile female, the bear will begin its courtship by making short runs and sniffing the one that could be the future mother of his cubs. And if the female bear accepts him, some playfulness and caresses will begin, hugging and nibbling. Although the male is on the right track, the female brown bear will not make things easy for him at all. And copulation will only happen when the female bear feels ready, which can even take days of courtship. When finally the male bear gets what he wants, as happens in countless species, he goes in search of new females, as the male bear is not ready for a serious relationship and prefers to go from flower to flower, expanding his lineage. Speaking of increasing the family and not taking responsibility, somewhere else in the forest, precisely some little ones take their first steps outside the den. And having 2 mating seasons a year, male brown bears often find themselves in this peculiar situation of going around looking for females on one hand, while their former partner acts as a single mother to the children. For the females who became pregnant during the mating season at the end of summer, perhaps things are not simpler, because they gave birth in the middle of a cruel winter. At that time, the little ones weighed only 350 grams, which is 0.77 pounds. After having received mother milk and warmth from their mother during the coldest days of Alaska, the cubs are ready to discover the world, or at least take a few steps around the neighborhood, though they still have a lot to learn in order to move away from the protective shelter of Mother Bear. Although the brown bears are very happy to finally be able to get out of their dens after the long winter in Alaska, they did not see the harshest side of the low temperatures, which some non-hibernating species had to spend these freezing months earning a living among white forests and frozen lakes. For the lynx, the transformation of its inhospitable habitat into landscapes full of life is like a dream come true. Despite having a thick coat with shades of brown and silver that keeps it warm during the winter, as well as thick paws that allow it to walk easily on the snow, the lynx adapts very well to its new life in spring Alaska. After months of scarce prey and not at all pleasant temperatures, the lynx, little by little, with the end of the small mammal's hibernation, once again has a more complete and balanced diet. With abundant plant life blooming everywhere, rabbits feel freer to run outside and even taste a little hay. In situations like this, the lynx takes advantage of a small prey that satisfies its nutritional needs, and the hunting skills of the lynx make it fail very rarely when it has set its sights on a prey. In addition to prodigious vision, lynxes have an enviable sense of hearing that they use to detect their prey in the middle of the endless boreal forests. Just one false move by a rabbit can make the lynx aware of its position and end up enjoying its 4 kilograms, which is 8.8 pounds, of fresh meat. We must not be fooled by the relatively small size of the lynx, as its reduced measurements compared to large felines represent a perfect evolutionary adaptation to its difficult environment in a place as far north as Alaska. While larger predators would be forced to meet a high hunting quota to satisfy their voracious appetite, for the lynx, a small rodent is more than enough. The lynx is a kind of Swiss Army knife when it comes to bringing food to the table, and the strategy most used by the lynx consists of patiently stalking its prey on specific trails called ambush beds. Its coat helps it camouflage among the now abundant vegetation, and by the time the prey detects the lynx, it is usually too late, because the feline is capable of making jumps of up to 6 meters, which is 19.7 feet. Long that place almost any prey within its reach. The final blow is usually delivered with its large retractable claws, which are more than enough to immobilize and knock out a small rabbit or hare, while another alternative is to take the hare out of combat using its strong bite. With its powerful jaw, a bite on the back of the neck is the coup de grace for the hare and the beginning of lunch for the lynx. Of course, with such hunting skills and after having spent a long winter full of need, The lynx gets somewhat ambitious and does not hesitate to include larger animals in its menu, where prey like rams, deer, and even caribou must be on alert, as the lynx will always be on the prowl. While it is true that spring has brought abundance for the lynx in the wildlife of Alaska, this agile feline must tread carefully, just as a small rodent becomes its prey in a matter of seconds, as Arctic wolves are a constant threat to the lynx. Against one of these canines, the chances of survival for the lynx are limited, but facing an entire pack is basically an impossible mission. Luckily for the lynx, in the vast forests, it has a safe and always accessible place to escape danger in the treetops. And like a good feline, the lynx has unmatched skills when it comes to climbing trees. This allows it to protect itself when there are dangers nearby, in addition to occasionally detecting possible prey from the heights. With more favorable weather conditions, the lynx can travel more comfortably through the Alaskan taiga, and usually, adult individuals travel up to 10 kilometers, which is 6.2 miles, looking for prey. The habitat of lynx populations in Alaska is heavily influenced by the areas where small mammals like the snowshoe hare live. And in fact, the lynx normally adapts its behavior and routine to the activity of the hares, being more active during the hours when these mammals leave their burrows. Some individuals even travel thousands of kilometers, which represents thousands of miles, following the movements of these populations. Of course, with more than 10,000 rivers in Alaska, many times on its travels the lynx encounters river obstacles to cross. And luckily, nature made the lynx an excellent swimmer, capable of crossing rivers and lakes without any difficulty. And speaking precisely of lakes, the thaw that spring brings makes all animal and plant life return to Alaska. Thousands of species that migrated south return to their feeding and breeding grounds, providing a unique spectacle. And in the case of birds, the Alaskan skies become the closest thing to an airport terminal, with thousands of them landing to enjoy the water and abundant food. For the Rocky Mountain white goat, the rise in the thermometer in its habitat means being at the mercy of predators. Accustomed to the freezing temperatures with a thick, white coat that lives up to its name, the freezing winters of Alaska are not as harsh as they might seem to this goat. On the other hand, the increase in temperatures definitely does not benefit it. During the long Alaskan winters, the white goat can even expand its habitat to lower lands, since predators are quite busy with the inclemencies of the weather. And in this way, it can feed comfortably. And to put it one way, while the rest of the animal species in Alaska cry because of the winter, the white goat sells handkerchiefs. The culmination of winter forces the white goat to return to the relative safety of the limited mountainous areas full of steep and rocky cliffs. This migration to higher lands places the white goat out of the reach of most predators that are just enjoying the abundant spring prey. Given the changes in the landscape, and that what were pleasant sub-zero temperatures for the white goat are gone, its lush, snow-white coat is no longer of much use. When this natural coat begins to be more of a hindrance than a protection against the cold, the white goat decides to go to the salon, and with the help of rocks and trees, they give themselves a makeover, rubbing until they shed their thick coat. The safety of the Rocky Mountain white goat's new habitat is not only in its lower temperatures as to get to its new neighborhood. It is necessary to climb steep slopes and slippery terrain where just one false step can mean not seeing another spring. What can be impossible terrain to cross for packs of Arctic wolves is a walk in the park for the white goat. Thanks to their strong legs, white goats are capable of jumping up to 4 meters, which is 13.1 feet, on steep slopes with up to 60 degrees of inclination. Furthermore, to walk placidly on rocky terrain, white goats have large internal pads that give them a useful traction and prevent fatal falls. Since winter is over and going to eat in the vast boreal forests full of wild predators is not a good idea. The Rocky Mountain white goat has to settle for the plant species within its reach, and its spring diet includes grasses, mosses, ferns, rushes, and basically any plant species that the highlands offer. Additionally, like a good goat, to maintain a balanced diet, it is frequent to see it licking rocks, looking to incorporate minerals like sodium, calcium, and phosphorus into its diet. This behavior, in addition to complementing their diet, gives their tongue a peculiar black coloration that contrasts with their white coat. Although by ascending to altitudes of up to 4,000 meters, which represents 13,123 feet above sea level, the white goats are not within the reach of most of Alaska's large predators. On their way, they can still be threatened by wolverines, lynxes, and bears. And when nature has given you a pair of horns 28 centimeters, which is 11 inches, long, and there is a bear with intentions of turning you into its lunch, you cannot do anything else but charge at it. Rocky Mountain white goats can become very aggressive when they see a predator or, of course, when the mating season arrives and a male tries to mess with the romantic partner of another. While the vast majority of wild species in Alaska celebrate these warmer days, the white goat patiently waits for the return of winter, where its white kingdom will rise again and the low temperatures will expand its domains to the boreal forests. And while it is something that will take time, sooner or later it will happen again, and the goat will descend again from the heights. While the Rocky Mountain white goat sheds its coat with the change of season, on the southern coast of Alaska, the mammal with the densest fur on the planet continues to proudly wear its natural coat even in spring. The sea otter does not believe in passing fads, so it decides to keep its abundant mane all year round. And of course, the sea otter knows well that a style as daring as its own requires care. So it spends a large part of its days grooming every area of its body. The main reason why, regardless of what the thermometer reads, the sea otter keeps its lush coat is that, unlike other species, this small marine mammal lacks a thick layer of fat, so it depends solely on its layer of fur to regulate its temperature. Luckily for the sea otter, living on the cold Pacific coasts of Alaska, the water will never be warm enough for its coat to pose a problem. Although capable of walking on land, sea otters prefer to spend almost their entire lives in the water. And with the perfect diver's disguise, sea otters jump into the water and go straight to the bottom of the sea to look for food. In this excursion along the seabed up to 45 meters, which is 147.6 feet deep, otters will look for what are exquisite snacks for them, like sea urchins, mollusks, crustaceans, and even some small fish. With dietary requirements of up to 38% of their body weight per day, sea otters must spend a long time submerged to detect their possible prey, as well as their greatest predator, the orca. Otters have long, sensitive whiskers that alert them to any movement in the water. And since they will not satisfy their appetite with just one clam or mussel, Nature created otters with everything necessary for their marine lifestyle. Otters have a pouch of skin under their armpits, which they use to store the food they collect on each dive. And when there is enough food in the pouch, the otter will go to the surface to enjoy the treasures it has found. If there is a mollusk with a shell, it is no problem, as sea otters usually carry a functional rock in their pouch for these cases. In addition to calming the rumble in their stomachs with their feeding, sea otters play an important role fighting the growth of sea urchins along the coast, which helps preserve the kelp forests that fill the ecosystem with life. And after contributing their grain of sand to the preservation of their habitat, often the otter's teeth become stained purple as a product of ingestion caused by the urchins. Even though, in the case of males, sea otters have a weight of up to 45 kilograms, which is 99.2 pounds. This is the smallest species of marine mammals. Of course, when you are compared to giants like sea lions, walruses, and manatees, there is not much to argue about. It is not for nothing that sea otters have chosen the waters full of life as their personal corner in Alaska, even having the immensity of the surface at their disposal. Sea otters have unmatched adaptations as swimmers, as their hind legs, responsible for propulsion when swimming, are long and webbed, similar to flippers, which allows them to swim up to 9 kilometers per hour, which is about 5.6 miles per hour. Their strong lungs allow them to hold their breath for up to 6 minutes underwater without needing to breathe, while their dense skeleton helps them submerge more easily. After a long day full of submersions, the sea otter may decide to take things easier and just let itself be carried away by the current. Thanks to the air trapped in its abundant fur, as well as its large lungs, the sea otter can float without any effort. On sunny spring days, and after spending long periods swimming, it is normal for the sea otter to feel dehydrated. And at these moments, contrary to other mammal species, the otter can simply turn its head and drink seawater, because its kidneys are capable of processing it without any inconvenience. After its agitated routine of grooming and diving on the coasts of Alaska, the sea otter heads to have a little social life, going to rest in large groups of otters called rafts. Although this seems like a good opportunity to start a family, there is a problem, and that is that in the rafts of otters, they are all of the same sex. As males with intentions of reproducing usually do not come to the rafts and rather stay guarding territories waiting for females. And with a number of females 5 times greater than males, there are no reasons to fight to mate, so otters can continue coexisting in peace. While the mating season does not represent a major concern for sea otters, for the Arctic fox, this is an issue that does not let it sleep. It must find a safe and comfortable place where its partner and it can raise their future pups. Generally, the choice of home for the Arctic fox will be in eskers, which are terrains full of sediments where there were previously glaciers, and of course, for it to be a property worthy of its family. The Arctic fox has as pending's homework to turn a couple of holes in the ground into a real home. Digging in the dirt incessantly, the Arctic fox begins the renovations, creating a tunnel system with different entrances and exits. Occasionally, in a show of camaraderie, several breeding pairs join together and share a den. All this to protect themselves from predators and divide up the parenting duties. Still with memories in mind of what a harsh winter was like, the Arctic fox continues with the preparations to receive its pups. To make sure the female is strong for childbirth, the best thing is for her to eat well, and this is when a wide range of possibilities opens up. Being in the friendlier spring ecosystem of Alaska, the Arctic fox usually hunts anything its reduced size of only 4 kilograms, which is 8.8 pounds, allows. The fox's diet includes small animals like lemmings, voles, and hares. And just in case some bird crosses its path, do not doubt for a second that the Arctic fox, if it is within its possibilities, will go for it. Rivers with more and more vegetation are also an almost constant source of nutritious fish during the spring. But just as for lynxes, hares are a species that greatly influences their behavior, the fate of the Arctic foxes of Alaska is closely linked to lemmings. When these small rodents live in large numbers near the fox's habitat, it is like manna fallen from heaven, as a family of 10 Arctic foxes is capable of eating up to 60 of these rodents a day. With full stomachs, the Arctic fox couple can put all their attention on what will be their future as parents. After a gestation period of 52 days, between 4 and 5 pups are born, and these little ones of only 65 grams, which is 2.3 ounces, are extremely fragile and are born without even being able to see. Of course, the pair of parents will take charge of making their pups grow healthy and strong. And the male Arctic fox is an example that there are still responsible fathers in Alaska and participates actively in the upbringing of his little ones. After about 4 weeks living in the comfort of the den, the pups will be ready to go out and get to know the outside. And luckily for them, they were born in spring, where conditions allow that, even small and fragile, they can take short walks together with their parents. But it is important that the pups learn quickly that they should not wander far from the relative safety of home, because even though the family tried to find a good neighborhood in the middle of the Alaskan wildlife, that practically does not exist. Packs of Arctic wolves can be a real problem for the family, as can wolverines and brown bears. And when the attacks from these predators become increasingly frequent, the foxes do not think twice and decide to move from the neighborhood to a place that offers them greater safety. Fortunately, foxes adapt quite well to new habitats and manage to mold their diet to the available food. And even in a somewhat drastic turn in their diet, Arctic foxes are capable of becoming temporarily vegetarian and eating berries and seaweed. Although, of course, they will always prefer a good plate of lemmings for its high nutritional contribution. While it is true that Arctic foxes take raising their pups very seriously, they do not have the same respect for the offspring of the bird species of the Alaskan ecosystem. And if eating bird eggs were a sport, the Arctic fox would very likely be an Olympic medalist, as it loves stalking nests in search of food. Of course, Alaska is not home solely to small birds. And if the Arctic fox makes bad calculations and ends up getting into the wrong nest, it can pay dearly, as birds like the snowy owl or the golden eagle do not like it at all when their nests are messed with. And the Arctic fox could be tasting one of its last snacks. Contrary to the Arctic fox and the Rocky Mountain white goat, not all species adapted to the harsh Alaskan winter boast a white coat. Some, like the majestic moose, prefer to maintain a brown style that helps them camouflage among the vegetation when spring arrives. The Alaskan moose is the largest subspecies of moose in the entire world, and these colossuses are capable of weighing up to 650 kilograms, which represents 1,433 pounds in the case of adults, and measuring more than 2 meters, which is 6.6 feet tall. Being one of the emblematic species of Alaska, nature gave the moose a deserved crown represented by antlers with up to a 2 meter, which is 6.6 feet wingspan, contrasting with other species that find a particular corner in the immensity of Alaska to settle. The moose's endurance allows it to live almost anywhere in this region, from the thick boreal forests to the cold Arctic slope. The moose is the perfect prototype of a survivor of the Alaskan climate. During the winter months, thanks to its thick coat and colossal size, it manages to stay at a pleasant temperature while the rest of the species suffer the cruel cold. And the long legs of the moose, crowned by wide hooves, allow them to travel over any terrain, whether it is covered by a thick layer of snow or full of mud. All this adaptation to low temperatures means that the Alaskan moose does not need to undertake massive migrations, unlike physically similar species like the caribou. But with those freezing days left in the past, the moose is not inhibited and is also capable of enjoying the pleasant spring. Usually, when this season arrives, moose head to one of the thousands of rivers to enjoy the rich ecosystem that is blooming. After maintaining a diet based on mosses, lichens, and bark during the winter, the moose is more than grateful to be able to enjoy grasses and shoots from willow and birch trees. Of course, when you are a gigantic moose of more than half a metric ton, just tasting a few branches is not enough, as each specimen needs approximately 20 kilograms, which is 44 pounds, of forage daily. Thanks to its strong incisors and gums, the moose can even eat woody vegetation from which it manages to absorb nutrients. But to eat it, first it has to be found. Not having a highly developed sense of sight, simulating a hound, the moose uses its sense of smell to get its lunch, and in the midst of its quiet routine looking for rich leaves, the moose can attract the attention of some daring predators with intentions of hunting such an herbivore, which is perhaps one of the disadvantages of bidding farewell to winter, because previously the moose rarely encountered other species. Wolves, brown bears, and wolverines are the main animal threats to the tranquility of the moose, although most of the time it will choose to take advantage of its long legs in a quick escape, occasionally when they are scared and find no alternative but to fight. They will use the large weapons they carry on their heads to ram the annoying carnivores. Speaking precisely of the moose's large antlers, the size of its horns usually reflects the diet the animal has, as a well-nourished moose often has large and leafy antlers that serve to deter other males from entering combat. And when a young moose encounters a large adult with imposing antlers, it usually opts to avoid problems that could cause serious injuries. For moose, it is better to say that he ran away here than he died here. Of course, when the mating season approaches and you are a male with desires to mate, confrontations are usually inevitable, and the fertile females are the prize for the winner. During combat, Males push their rival with their antlers until one of the two decides to surrender or ends up seriously injured. And given that being able to mate with a beautiful female or having to wait a whole year is at stake, fights usually extend for up to hours. In addition to the risk of being injured by the opponent's antlers, in these combats, sometimes the antlers can get entangled, which results in both animals spending days stuck together and ending up dying of starvation. Although this is a totally unhappy ending for this pair of males, others have better fortune and their mating calls are answered by the females while scaring away other males. So without having to duel with another horned male, they can extend their lineage. After this fleeting romantic adventure with the female, the male moose will shed its velvet, which corresponds to the loss of its imposing horns. And having already gotten the most out of them to impress females and intimidate competing males, the moose gets rid of the up to 36 kilograms, which is 79.4 pounds, that an antler can represent. And with this change of look, the moose will continue on its way, continuing what should be a not very hectic routine in Alaska. Despite roaming a territory with remarkably few natural predators, the moose faces its gravest danger not from the wild, but from human hands, as roughly 7,000 fall to legal hunting every year, while vanishing forests and expanding highways, which claim some 240 lives annually, steadily squeeze this majestic giant out of its ancestral range. The sea otter tells an even darker story. Its luxurious fur, once so coveted, that populations collapsed from 300,000 along the Alaskan coast to a mere 2,000 survivors. A catastrophe deepened by fishermen who saw the otters as rivals rather than fellow creatures of the sea. The muskox has endured a strikingly similar fate, hunted relentlessly for its warm hide and abundant meat, while a warming climate now compounds the threat by making forage harder to find and disease easier to catch. Even the orca, an apex predator whose size shields it from capture, cannot escape the quiet violence of overfishing and polluted waters, with some individuals in recent years reportedly starving as the sea grows emptier of life. Brown bears watch old refugees vanish beneath deforestation, agriculture, and mining, while beavers, nature's own engineers, find their wetland kingdoms drained and diverted, leaving them with nothing to build upon. Yet amid this litany of loss, Alaska also offers proof that decline is never truly irreversible. The trumpeter swan, once reduced to a heartbreaking 70 individuals worldwide, found sanctuary along the Copper River, and through careful reintroduction efforts guided by wildlife agencies, its numbers have soared to roughly 50,000 today. Sea otters, too, have clawed their way back from near annihilation, their recovery secured by the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and now reclaiming 2/3 of their former range. The bald eagle stands as perhaps the most striking symbol of resilience, its population climbing to around 40,000 since gaining protected status, once again filling Alaskan skies as an emblem of strength and freedom. These successes reveal a simple but powerful truth: that when human will aligns with nature's own resilience, even species standing at the edge of extinction can find their way back. The path ahead demands sustained commitment, curbing deforestation, tempering the reach of mining and oil extraction, and thoughtfully regulating hunting, all of which require the genuine involvement of the communities who share this land with such extraordinary wildlife. Alaska remains, even now, a living sanctuary where courage and endurance define daily survival, and where the fate of countless species still hangs in a delicate balance. We have the power to tip toward hope, Having followed these remarkable stories of struggle and survival across the frozen wild, which of Alaska's resilient survivors will stay with you the longest?